will take us to the next level. Thank you. Good evening, girls. Good evening. It's good to be called girls, eh? Yeah. My name's, like you have heard, is Patriciah K. Makora. K stands for Kamau. I was born in Central Kenya, but got married in Kisii. Yeah. Besides that, I have done a bachelor's degree in Pan-Africa Christian University near Roysabu. Then I did my master's at USIU in counseling psychology, and then my PhD at Kenyatta University over dissertation. I finished my coursework, I finished my internship, and I'm working on my research, my dissertation. I'm also a mother of a friend of some of you. His name is Chris, and a proud mother for that. My history, we're gonna use a book I've co-authored with my husband, A Covenant Marriage and Family Love Letter, in part 2 of the discussion. Just to begin, this is the 5th annual African Women's Seminar entitled Family Dynamics. When we talk of family, what do we understand? You know, from the Caucasian or the American point of view, it may have a different meaning from the African point of view. You know, we are Africans. The dictionary, American Heritage Dictionary, has defined family as a fundamental social group in society, typically consisting of 1 or 2 parents and their children, a group of persons sharing a common ancestry. For the American Association of Family and Consumer Science states that it is 2 or more persons who share resources, share responsibilities for decisions, share values and goals, and have a commitment to one another over time. From the cultural aspect, the traditional African perspective may have a wide understanding of what a family is. These perspectives could be as many as the ethnic communities represented here. From Central Kenya, the Kikuyu community, which is my community, they believe that the first parents were Gikoyo and Mobi, and there are 10 children. Actually, they say 9 and 9 complete, because there is no 10 in Kikuyu. Traditionally, there wasn't. So 10 daughters who form the clans. And occasionally, you'll hear somebody saying that this is from my family, this is a member of my family. They don't mean their mother or father or child. They may mean the sister of their grandmother. That's their family member. So we are more open to what a family is. From the Judeo-Christian perspective that many of us may identify with, the genesis of family began at creation in the Garden of Eden, where there was the first man Adam and his wife Eve. The children that have been identified at the beginning were Cain and Abel. And if we can just reflect back, for those of us who are familiar with the Bible perspective of the family, we know conflict began with the first family, to the point of one killed another. So conflict is not new to us. It has not begun in the 2016 or in the 21st century. It began long ago, as old as man is. Family dynamics. What do we mean by family dynamics? That's a huge name, family dynamics. There is the family and there are the dynamics. From the English word, we can understand dynamics are different things. Uniqueness of a family. Family dynamics are the interaction between these family members, those ones we have mentioned already, from whichever perspective that you come from, and the way they interact with each other. Every family has its own dynamics, such that we may think that simply because we are from Africa, that our family dynamics are similar. For example, people who may work with us either as social workers or as therapists They may think because I worked with that African family, the other one is exactly the same, which is wrong. So it is our turn now to teach the people what our family is like. What is our family culture? So that they may help us and meet us at the point of our need. They may meet us where we are. Because of these dynamics, and I may want to begin by saying that there are as many family therapy theories as there are theorists. I would say I am more eclectic, where I borrow a little here, a little there, but I lean more towards the structural family therapy. This family therapy was begun by somebody who is called Salvador Munishin. And he says that for a family to be functional, it has to have a hierarchy. Who is the head of who? In a family, is it father, mother, eldest child, second born, third born? And I think in most of our African communities, that is the way we look at the family hierarchy. It also, this approach also considers the different subsystems. By different subsystems, most of us work with organizations where there is a head office, then there are departments. Likewise, in a family, there is a head office and there are departments. The head office is called the parental subsystem, or what we call also the couple subsystem. This is the husband and wife, or the man and the woman, the caregivers. Then the other subsystems could be the siblings, the children amongst themselves. They have their own department. And the sum of the staff is their own staff, and they don't want head office to know. That is where sometimes parents will go wrong, because we want to intrude too much into the privacy of the other department. From your office understanding, are there some things you wouldn't want to be sitting with your HR and discuss openly? Sure. So we have also to appreciate that as much as we are parents, we should allow the children to be and to mingle amongst themselves. As long as the department or the head, the hierarchy is doing its role in that family, we should be okay with that. Other departments could be same gender, if it is the man and the boys, that's another subsystem, the boy thing. And it could also be the female gender like we have here today, the girls, the mother, the daughters. If there is a grandmother, that is another subsystem on its own. All of them are covered by the same organization, but different departments. Healthy families are assumed to have a structure that permits them to meet life cycle demands, characterized by clear intergenerational boundaries between the parent and the child subsystems. In assessing the function of the family-centered treatment model, which I would say has certified me here in America, it looks at 6 areas of family functioning. And we're going to look at these 6 areas. And before we look at them, we need to understand that the family therapist who is committed to helping a particular family must be aware of what families are composed of in terms of their general structure. If you go to a family, you want to understand who are they, how are they, and for you to understand them, you need to do some assessments. The family may not know that you are even assessing them, but the way you interact with them, you are asking certain questions, and you are trying to understand the family. The family therapist therefore guides the family members to complete a questionnaire on family functioning. This questionnaire will try to assess these 6 areas. That is from the family-centered therapy model. And the first area is problem solving. How does this family solve its problems? By this I mean achieve daily tasks, talk about options as a family, talk about how well things work out after they are tried. How is this family? There are some families, for example, which are dysfunctional, that are just dictatorial. Daddy says this, it has to be that way. But a functioning family, they will communicate with each other and agree on how to do certain things. Who washes the dishes? Who cleans the floor? These are tasks. They may look like simple tasks, but if they are not in order, that is some of the sources of family conflicts. Because daughter A and daughter B will just look at each other and nobody wants to wash the dishes. And when mom comes from work, she is tired, she begins yelling at them. There is a family conflict. Another area that is assessed whether a family is functioning well is communication. How do they communicate with each other? Understanding each other, saying what you mean to the person instead of being masked and indirect. For example, a story has been told of a mother who told the eldest child. I'll interpret. I'll say it in vernacular and then interpret or translate. Goreo iketie mwana rikoi. I want to find that you have thrown the child in the fire. This mother was not telling the child to throw, the eldest child to throw the baby into the fire. No, it was an indirect way of saying, take care of the child, take care of the baby. That is an indirect way. But we want to encourage people to communicate directly with each other. Say exactly what you mean. What is it that you are saying? Don't be indirect. And we have many sayings in most of our African cultures. You know, like, which saying can you think of? Some of the things that we have in our cultures. Anybody who can think of anyone? The heart is sorted right. that really is about choices. It's talking about choices, an indirect way. By the way, I already discovered we are very indirect people in our cultures. Somebody else? That really is a mother or a parent trying to caution the child. Yeah? Come again? Yeah. She has already said, you have done well, you will be praised. That is an indirect way of saying, there is trouble, you have not done well. Can you think of another one? Yes? There is no thief and the one that is spying on them. Meaning that if you are there when it was being done, you are equally as guilty. Yeah. Can we have some other things from other communities besides the Central Kenya? Any things? Any other community represented here? You can't think of one. Anyway, that is indirect communication. The other area is raw performance. All have a job to do, accept and do the job in the family. Like I was talking about washing dishes, who throws the trash, who does what, who washes the car, you know. And if you can come to the parents, who pays the bills and which bill. Is it ever discussed, if at all? Or it just happens? Somebody was saying the other day that these African girls that work so hard, they have become nurses, they are doing doubles, they have a lot of money. And some of their spouses tell them, you have the money, you pay the rent. You have the money, you pay the bills. And you end up paying everything. You know, we are saying that we want a family where they are able to determine who does what. A family that is able to communicate with each other. No wonder Uhai is saying that next time we want the men here. We want everybody here because we learn so much, but we are only teaching one side, you know, of the gender and leaving the other one out. The fourth area is effective responsiveness. By this one is expressing our feelings to one another in an open and honest way. Use a variety of emotions to express ourselves. Content, intensity, and the timing of emotions remains appropriate even during times of stress. I can just think of one, where we say that the African man does not cry. And not only the man, even the boy, they know that an African man should not cry. And yet we know that there are times when they should be allowed to cry. One time, my son, he came ahead of me, about 10 years ahead of me here in America, and he was very upset about his boss, and he told me that, Mom, I was feeling so sad that I wanted to cry. Then I remembered I'm an African man. He was 19. And I told him, even if you're an African man, go to the shower and cry. Just cry. It's okay to cry. Or in the prayer closet. Get rid of those emotions. Yeah, the other area of family functioning that we look at as a family-centered therapist is the behavior control. Having behaviors that are predictable, consistent, responsible, ability to provide appropriate rewards and consequences. If the child does not do their homework, what consequences are there? Or do we just say, oh boy, you boy, and we are not doing anything about it? They're going to become naughty. So we need to have those rewards and consequences. If mom said that you cannot watch TV until you have done your homework, follow through with that. That's rewards and consequences. Until you have done A, B, C, D, then you can get this reward. If you don't do this, then we're going to withdraw something. So, on the contrary, a dysfunctional family will be unable to function in all those 6 areas or in one of them. The result being diffused or rigid family boundaries, extreme enmeshment, where you cannot tell the difference between child A and child B, or mother and big sister. They are all enmeshed, such that if your big sister talks, it feels like it's your mother who spoke. You can't tell the difference. Where has A ended and where has B begun? So we want people to be individuated enough and yet united in the family, so that I am my own person. As a spouse or as a daughter in that family. A therapist who has committed to helping a particular family must be aware of what families are composed of. Yeah, I already said that. So part of the tools that we use to assess, and different agencies will use different tools. So the family-centered therapy foundation model, they will use tools. First of all, there are 4 stages. And in those 4 stages, the first stage is really that you go to the family, you join with them. Because somebody who does not feel free with you will not tell you about themselves or their issues. You can imagine a husband and a wife are having conflicts, and child A or child B is having issues at school. This stranger just comes in the name of a family therapist. It is hard to just open up to them and begin telling them your issues. So you need to join with that therapist. And some of the tools that are used both to join and to assess is you have time with each of the family members to do what we call an eco map. An eco map is the individual world of the family member. For example, in a week, Monday to Monday, what things are important to you? Where do you get your strength from? Is it from your church? Is it from your basketball game? What are your strengths? Or where do you get your resources? On the same note, you want to understand what stresses you. And some people will say, my dad, or my stepdad, if it's a kid. And you want to explore and know, why does stepdad stress you, or why does dad stress you? And it can be something as small as, he sent me to bed early. That is enough to stress a 10-year-old boy. Stepdad sent me to bed early. So after doing these maps of the world for every family member, individually, privately, you allow them time, 30 minutes, 1 hour, and explore their world. Then You have the caregivers, or one of them, if it is a single parent family, or if it is both of them, you do what is called a family life cycle. This cycle helps you to understand how were the parents like individually growing up from the time they were single young adults. How did they relate with their own parents? Because sometimes our children take after us. How was it like when you just got married? Did you meet your expectations in that marriage? What is resolved and what is unresolved? Then when the children came into the equation, what changed? Was there room for the children, or did we abandon one of the spouse? How was it right? So you are trying to assess the health of that family. If it is the adolescence, the time the child became an adolescent, we go by the eldest child. You know, now a teenager is trying to be independent. They have their own, they are trying to seek for their own autonomy. How are you letting them be themselves? How did you negotiate that as a parent or as parents? How did you relate with the grandparents? Remember, from our African point of view, and also even like Hispanics and other people who really value family, the extended family. How did we relate with these parents? How did we launch our children? The empty nest? You know, by the time children are turning 18 and they are going to be on their own, how did we let them go? I know in most cities, if I can, and maybe even here in America, in Nairobi, I know 35-year-olds and 40-year-olds, some of them in the cities are still living in the house of their parents. Is that so? Are we letting our children grow? My mother used to say, immediately I turned 18, you know, when the mother sheik has taught the chicken to feed for themselves, it is time to go, and it does like this with the wings. You know, you are being told to go now, be on your own. Are we allowing our children to grow, or we are just hanging on to them? Until somebody is 40, they are still living with their mother, or they are 35. What about later in life? How did we handle the situations of losing some loved ones? Maybe our parents, maybe your parents died, because by the time you are launching off your kids, maybe the kid is 20 or 25, some parents may be too old again, they are beginning to leave the world. You know, how did we handle that grief? Because sometimes some of the conflicts are because of unresolved losses, unresolved and complicated grief. People are crying, people are mourning, they were never able to process, especially in our diaspora setting. You know, somebody died in the village, you are never able to bring a closure, you are still mourning them 10 years down the line, you are still mourning, you are stressed out, and it affects the whole family. Then we also look at divorcing families, especially again in our context. We have not reached a point where the people of the West have reached where they accept divorce and remarriages very easily. I know people, when their parents remarry, they want nothing to do with that somebody. They want nothing to do with that person. How are we handling those situations? Or remarriages. People marry and one comes with a boy, a son, and the other one comes with 3 children. How do we bring them together? Is it in a healthy way or an unhealthy way? All these are sources of family conflicts. What about custodial parents now? Visitations. I know many families are conflicting over this. You know, he is visiting his children and he is already remarried, or she is already remarried. And the spouse fears that there might be a relationship. I know people in the West have no problem in that area, but Africans, we seem to have that problem. Another tool that we use is what is called a genogram or a family tree. We look at 3 generations. Through these generations, we look at what issues have people struggled with. That is the children, their parents, and their grandparents, and their siblings. And you may see a pattern in families. You may see like the child is suffering with sexual abuse. The mother was also sexually abused. The grandmother was also sexually abused. It's like a pattern. Or there was diabetes in that family. In the siblings, there is also diabetes. The grandparents, there was diabetes. So there are medical issues. So trying to understand all these and how we handle the different issues. It could also be legal issues, legal involvement. Maybe the son is having problems with the police. His uncle also had issues with the police. His great-grandfather also had issues with the police. It's a pattern. And the self-awareness of the generations help you begin to look at yourself closely and from the Christian perspective, it's what we say is like a generational curse. So there are different ways that we can intervene. Psychologically, just self-awareness and knowing that this happened and this is the likelihood. And using the tools that are there and even seeking help so that we can stop that pattern. Remember, the family is made up of family members. Family members individually may have their own problems, their own mental health issues. How do we know that a family member has mental health issues? There are 4 areas, and there could even be more, that you can use to identify whether there are mental health issues with a family member or even with yourself. Like the norm variations. There are things we do in our culture, but this person is really off that culture. For example, since every human group lives within a norm or rules that tell us what is right and wrong to do, and when, where, and with who. So if somebody begins doing something that is too much, for example, if I may use this example, like the LGBT, some of them may be outside our cultures or outside our norms, but in this culture, we know, again, we are in a different culture. Before we rebuke the demons and what have you, we know that there is the environmental influence also. How do we handle this? I know a relative of mine, actually, the son of my cousin, living in California, she really had issues with her son who had become gay. And then every family members, even those ones in Africa, they were just, we spoke about gossiping. Everybody was gossiping about it. And this parent already was stressed enough of that particular issue. Everybody was blaming her, her friends, her relatives were blaming her. How do you handle those conflicts within yourself and without? Having such a situation in your family, especially if it is against your norms as a family and as a culture. How do you handle that? At the point that herself she was able to accept this is a different world, it's a different generation, it's a different environment, but the relatives didn't get there. So how do you harmonize that? In a nutshell, just to know whether somebody, a family member, has issues, you can use the synonym act mad, but in the D you put a P. A is standing for appearance. How do they look like? Are they kept? Do they comb their hair? How are they in their appearance? Are you able to tell somebody has issues by just looking at them? Are you able to? Sometimes, yeah. But it can be, it can help you look deeper, that something is going wrong or could be going wrong with that child or with that person. Then also, the cognitions. How are they listening? Are they getting offline in their talk? I know issues happen in WhatsApps, in Facebooks. Are they off the line? How do you handle it as a community? How do you handle it as a family? It could be the thought pattern. You can tell the way that person is reasoning, something seems to be going wrong somewhere. You know, when we were back in Kenya and you saw somebody talking to themselves, you knew they were mad. But today, people have Bluetooth, is it and hearts of phones, so somebody will just be walking and they are throwing the hearts. You think they are mad. They are not mad. You know? So, again, technology brings new challenges. But minus technology, it is something to look at. What about the mood? Are they always moody? It's like they are waiting for somebody to touch them and then they are on your case. You know? What about their attention and concentration? You are trying to talk to somebody and then halfway they are telling you, eh? You know? They are not there with you for the last half hour. You know? You know? What about their perception? How do they perceive things? So all these put together can help you have clues that something may not be right somewhere. So what do you do with that information? This could be the time that now you need help. And why we do treatment in family therapy, or even in therapy itself, it could be individual counseling. The first goal is treatment. You need this person to be treated, to be helped. And that is another challenge for the African community. I have heard several people saying, oh, they want to give my son medication. Maybe the child has ADHD. Maybe they have depression. And the parents are resisting. Because there is that saying that somebody is crazy, quote unquote. It is the high time, the same way we are treating diabetes and it is being managed, the same way we are treating cancer, people are going for chemotherapy, you know, or other conditions, people are getting help. We should understand that mental health needs treatment. We should accept that people need to be helped. We should be okay with it. I remember back in Africa, I had a church member who had bipolar. She was a PhD candidate and a lecturer in the university, very bright lady, but she was managing her condition. So people can manage their conditions and continue with life. But if these conditions are not treated, then we will throw them to what we call Madare, or the mental health institutions. So in short, we are saying that we should be okay with having our people treated, with having family members treated, and we should not allow ourselves to stigmatize ourselves or to stigmatize others. If we are not stigmatizing our diabetes, why should we stigmatize mental health issues? Yeah. Yeah. Then alongside the medication, there is now what we were talking about, the psychotherapy. Go through the PCP, the primary doctor, and let them refer to you an outpatient therapist to see that child. Or school counselors, they are school counselors. The second reason why we assess is for prediction. This therefore guides the way for treatment and how treatment should go. And by the way, back to the family conflicts, which is our main issue. When these conflicts happen, mom is stressed out, and the culture is also interfering. We are not adapting ourselves well into the American culture, because out there, or even in the Christian culture, we are told that you spoil the king, you spoil the rod, and spare the rod and spoil the child. But if you do that here, that child, as long as they have a mouth to talk, they will go to school, they will look sad, and the school counselor We will ask them what is going on, and they will say, oh, mommy hates me. And then the next thing that will happen, after one will be written on you. Because people who work with the children are mandated reporters. And the law of Massachusetts expect that any child who is being abused must be reported. It has to be reported that there is abuse or even suspected abuse. And the next thing that happens, DCF, Department of Children and the Families, will knock at your door. And if you do a good whipping like the ones our mothers used to do on us in the village, there could be some marks on the body. That child will be removed from your house. I remember one day I whipped my own son with a belt. I did a very good beating. Not here in America, back in Africa, thank God. Then I wasn't sure whether I had hurt him. So I told him, no, it is shower time. And I wanted to check. I didn't want him to see I was checking whether there were any scars. And there were some slight scars. If I was here in America, and the scar is somewhere visible, or the kid reports you, you are in trouble. So adjusting from the African culture, from the Judeo-Christian approach to disciplining children, we have to adjust and look for other ways to adapting to the American system as far as the laws are concerned. So far, what I have been doing is what is called psychoeducation, and the aim of educating us is both preventative and remedial. Preventative in the sense that if you are here and you are planning to whip your kid, already you know you shouldn't do that. You know you might find yourself in trouble. And remedial in the sense that if you have already done it, you know it should not continue. Or if your child has already been taken by DCF, we have solutions for you. And at some point, we're going to have one of the panelists tell us a little bit more about it. I wanted to do a little illustration. And I'll use my water here that I'm taking. Here's a cup. Assume these emotions as life continues to happen. Life is happening. So when it happens, your grandmother, you receive a phone call, your grandmother has passed away. Those are heavy emotions, the one you are named after. They get into your heart. Next time, you have communication issues at home with your spouse, and the rent has not been paid. You're asking him to pay the rent, and he is saying, you are the nurse. You are the one doing doubles. Family stress. More stress. Then your kid goes to school, and he forgets to do his homework. He comes home, he finds an already stressed mother or father, and you are yelling at him, more stress. What will happen within a week? Your cup will be full of stress. Different things that have happened. Besides the normal that happened. In the news, we are reading news, we already know, like in Florida, some people die. That's the corporate stress that we are receiving. Vicarious trauma. So what you should do is that as life happens, process it. Call that friend that Waja was talking about. Tell them about it. What is happening in your life? Somebody that you can trust. So that you are trying to get rid of that stress. So that you leave space for life to continue happening. So that tomorrow, when you have issues at school, you have enough room for more stress. As it happens, process it. Because if you don't do that and the cup is full, and it diffuse, assume this was a jug of water, and it diffuse this cup. By the time it is overflowing, that will be blood pressure, because you are bursting now with the stress. It will be a mental illness that we are trying to get rid of. Depression. Of some things that could have been avoided. So we are teaching these skills and encouraging us that we need to continue processing the stress as it happens. Another way you can go beyond talking to a friend, you can do what we call journaling. Some people are very good with writing things in diary. And even if it is private, you can write it and then burn the paper. Just to get it off your system. You are processing that stress. You can go then another step. Talk to your pastor if he's available or she is available for pastoral counseling. Don't feel shy. Myself, I have had time talking to my pastor. And my church members may be aware of that. Yeah. If that a time reaches that you feel you need help, don't be shy. Just look for your pastor. Talk to them. As a family, let's try to communicate with each other. And if we are not able to do that, let us seek for help. There is something that is called the self-referral. You don't have to wait for DCF to tell you need in-home therapy. You can refer yourself. Call and ask for help. I don't know. Jane, did you come with the foodstuffs? I want us to reflect on one person that you feel that you need to forgive or you need forgiveness from. Either from a Judeo-Christian point of view or from a social point of view. You feel I need to let go. Because when you hold on to grudges, it builds up and it fuels the mental health issues or the family stresses and the conflicts that you may find yourself in. Yeah.
One per table or each person? Each person. Each person? Yeah.
Finish half.
Finish half.
I'm being told I have to finish now. What I want us to do with those papers, write a paragraph or even a sentence or two in form of a letter to somebody and tell them exactly what you think about them. Good or bad. That person you're bitter about or you feel you need them to forgive you. A sentence or two, it's confidential, it's for your keep. So that we may just learn a skill of how to process some of these emotions. If you get the paper, just begin writing a sentence or two. Other tools that we can use is what we call bibliotherapy. And by bibliotherapy is when you get a book on a topic that you are struggling with and you use that book to educate yourself. As you read that book or that article, you may feel like you have resolved your problem halfway. because somebody may be talking about the very issue that you are going through. That's bibliotherapy. Let's be a people that read books. And soon we are breaking into groups. You still have time for that? Groups? Yeah. I have to introduce the group. If I may ask even the core panelists to write that sentence or two for themselves. Come again?
What are we writing?
You are writing a letter to somebody that you need to forgive or you need to be forgiven by. It's a letter.
Are they alive or are they dead?
Whatever. They could be alive, they could be dead. Somebody that you remember and you say, that person. Yeah, write about that one. It's confidential, it's yours. It could be your spouse, it could be your child, it could be your father who deserted you when you were a child like mine, you know. Mine deserted us when I was 6, yeah. It could be somebody like that one. It could be your grandmother who's been telling you to send a blanket and you have not sent and she is mad at you and you are also mad at her. It could be anybody, anything. If you are done, a sentence or two. You know, there is a sentence that speaks volumes. Somebody you need to forgive or you need to be forgiven by. Two ways. If you need to be forgiven by, ask for their forgiveness. That person could be living or dead. Maybe they died before you resolved the conflict. They could be living. Some people don't need to forgive anybody, I can see. By the way, that person could also be God. For those who are spiritual. Don't rush us. Are you done? How many have written something? What about the others? I hope you not post on Facebook. And you can do that on a daily basis. And if it is too confidential, you can write it and then tear it up and put it in the trash or burn it up. That way, you have gotten rid of it and move on. There is a time I had to do a letter. It was a whole page letter. After I wrote the letter, I burnt it up, and that was it. That person, who I had not met for many years, we bumped into each other in town back in Nairobi, Kenya. And the words that came from his mouth, "Forgive me." And he began confessing his sins. He didn't know I had written any letter because I never posted it. There is power in forgiveness. Yeah, that's what we are saying. I think we can now, how are we going to do the groups?
I was looking for Jane, but she's not here. One, I want to invite Wanja and Mary right out here. If you could just give us a brief introduction to you and what you do, that would be good.
Do I need this?
Yes.
Like I'm so loud already. Hello everyone.
Hi.
My name is Wanja. As Wanja introduced me, I work as a family stabilization. I work with Wayside Youth and Family Support as a family stabilization clinician. And basically our work is very, very truthful. I love it, but involves working with families and mostly for me working with African families, going to their homes and trying to see all what Patricia has talked about, what could be going wrong, what is not functioning, what is not stable, and we try to stabilize. What can we do to help you? And I always like to go into the home with a very open mind and wanting to hear the stories. We all have our own stories. We all have our own journeys. And we know the transition from wherever we have come from to this country is always a challenge. So basically what we do is help with every aspect that the family may be needing that at that point, be they involved with the Department of Children and Families, be it mental health issues, be it parenting, be it domestic violence, school. So we'll come in and our work is very, very goal-oriented. We set goals for the family. Like if it's, for example, if it's with the school or the kids are having trouble at school, I'll just ask the parent, what would you like to see change in this family? And I would like to see the change come. I do not want to come to your house and impose the change. I want the family to tell me, this is where we'd like to see our son. In the next 2 years, we'd want to see our son graduate high school, and then we come up with goals that this is the expectation. How can we make him make sure school attendance is consistent throughout the week? So it's very, very simple, and we also connect with families with resources that they may need in the community, be it housing issues, sometimes could be legal issues, sometimes it could also be like school. I help a lot of parents, especially advocating for parents in schools. Just going in school with the parents, for example, for IEP meetings, that's if you want your child to have an individualized education plan, and you may want to advocate, and probably the school is not giving feedback, I just help to advocate for the parents. I don't know honestly whether you people have any questions. I would prefer to hear from the parents as far as all what Patricia has talked about, issues that affect us. And when I say issues that affect us, we as the African community, we know our stories better, right? So, and mostly when we conflict with the system, it's because of the transition and the cultural conflict and many other things. It's not that we are not bright enough to know what we should be doing, but it's conflict, the clash of systematic issues. And that's where I basically come in and say, well, as Patricia has said, we know how it happened back home when it comes to spanking. Personally, the last time I was ever spanked by my mom, I threw a shoe in the toilet, in the pit latrine. And that was the last I ever got a spanking, because I even faked that I was dying. So it can, yeah, that is how bad it gets. So when I go to these to our families, they tell me, Jane, why are you pretending you don't know how we do it back home? Why are you telling me that I need to spare the Lord? And so we start having conversations of like, let us have real, honest conversations. I know how it happens, but if I tell you go ahead and do it, in the next few days or hours, the child will be removed from the house. So let's just pray what is safe for us. Let us set limits. Let us do what is right. And also working with families going through mental health issues, which Patricia has really, really talked in depth. And we know when it comes to mental health issues, we keep it secret. We keep it sacred. We do not want to talk about that. Because when it comes to mental health issues, all that comes to our mind is that madman we saw in our marketplaces. And we refuse to address that mental health is a real issue in our community. It's not about, oh, you know, she's not feeling well because dowry was never completed when she got married. It's not about she's sick because she saw a black cat when she was expectant. Those are myths, and so we need to address and just be honest with ourselves. We need to consult with people like Patriciah, make referrals, and you should feel bad about seeing a counselor, because I know so many people have an issue with being referred to a counselor, or even making suggestions that can we probably make a referral for a counselor. We should feel bad about it. But again, it all goes back to our community. What do? We pick those phone calls. Oh, we stigmatize one another, right? We do not support one another. So what we are saying is that we should be a community that is there for one another, especially when it comes to real mental health issues. And I don't know whether any of you read an article that was written about like 2 months ago by one of our own, a professional, not in this state. I think she's an attorney somewhere, and she had told her own story, what she went through before she even realized she had bipolar, and how the community stigmatized her. I think it is in one of the papers, Mwakilishi. Yeah, it was a very, very deep article. How everybody in that community, I think it's Merad, yeah, deserted her, disowned her, and all they did, right from Kenya to the States, she was left alone, social isolation. Because of her status, she never understood until she walked in and started seeing a psychiatrist, and she was diagnosed with bipolar. To an extent where she lost, I think, her license, she lost her practicing license, and she said for her that time, she realized how our own community can destroy one another. So when I go to families, I like to hear their stories. And the good thing is that I have the background of where we are coming from. When you tell me, when the kids go to school and tell the teachers, my mama said she'll hit me with mwiko, and the teacher won't understand what the mwiko is. If I go in there, I'll be able to understand what the mwiko is, and I'll tell them, keep that mwiko aside, because if the Department of Children and Family comes and sees what the mwiko is, then that would be another story. So I honestly, I would like to hear from the audience about what issues, be it domestic violence, be it substance use scenarios. I work with a whole wide range of issues to stabilize family. It's very, very intrusive. Nobody likes anyone to knock into your doors and introduce themselves and explain what you want to do. But I find so much joy when I'm able to see any of our own, they have been able to go back on track, and probably they've been able to safeguard their kids from being removed. I'm not a social worker. I know most people always confuse our role with social workers, but as Patricia said, we are mandated reporters. We work directly, our referrals come from the social workers or the department, and that's how the whole system works. Mary, and you. Thank you.
Good evening, my fellow African women. Good evening again. My name is Mary Kingori. I'm a nurse. I work at Akia Hospital. I'm actually a nurse manager on one of the units, and it's an alcohol and substance abuse hospital. We don't receive it. I've seen people come from different places and asking for help. They want to go to the ER. We don't have an ER. People have come in. We do not have an ER. We do a triage of people who are coming in for alcohol and drug abuse. And having come from a different culture, a lot of people don't understand about drug addiction, or we know about alcohol because we've seen it at home. But the biggest issue is drug addiction, and even knowing what to look out for, the symptoms that you're looking out for, what is your child doing, who is your child interacting with. We don't actually know much about it. I remember when I started working there, it was a little bit traumatizing when I'm looking at people and I'm saying, wait a minute, what am I looking at here? Why is this person coming back 3-4 times? Why don't they get it? So we have to understand about the nature of the disease. People don't even think it's a disease. It's a chronic disease. People don't even think about it as a disease. Well, he can stop it if he wants to. I don't think so, because I've seen it. I've worked there for a long time, and some people come in through, they come back again, they've lost everything, they don't even know what to do. The school system here, our kids are also interacting with people who are also aware of so much. There's so much that is going on out there. So are we